Once again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attending right now to this session, Hip Hop Connect Show and Tell. We have two legends, two folks who are doing great for this session. And I'd like to introduce you to Kevin Koval. If you don't know who Kevin Koval is, you need to go ahead and Google him, okay? Because you'll see a whole slew of accolades from him doing performances on Def Poetry Jam to different notoriety shows on NBC, as well as The Daily Show. Like Kevin Koval, Louder Than the Bomb he's
yes.
the ish. All right. So please, I just want to go ahead and give a warm welcome to Kevin Koval.
Peace, Josiah. Thank you for that. And good morning to everyone. I hope you all are maintaining and well. I'm really excited and privileged to be with you, and I'm excited to participate in this conversation and hear from Purple in just a moment. I was asked to just kind of make some introductory remarks and talk a little about the work that we do in Chicago, and I'm privileged to be able to do so. So first of all, just again, great to be here. And the times that we find ourselves in now are reminiscent of times where I think young people from working class communities, young people of color, have always had institutions turn their back away from one another. And in the midst of that disenfranchisement and disinvestment and the chronic maintenance of white supremacy, I think young people of color, young people from working class communities have always found the tools around them to create incredible things. I think now we find ourselves in unfortunately the same chronic position because of the nature of white supremacy, because of the nature of colonialism, because of the nature of global capitalism. And so I think that we should take some solace that young people and communities have been ingenuitous to figure out very difficult situations, and this is one of them. And it reminds me a lot of creating a moment in Chicago in response to some tragedies that were existing. And I want to just mention a little about the times that we created Louder Than a Bomb, which is the Chicago Youth Poetry Festival. I myself, grew up as a working class hip hop kid, moved around a lot because my mom, who was a single mom, was taking us in and out of a lot of housing instability situations. And so we moved schools a lot, we moved houses a lot more than that. And what really saved me was probably the music more than anything. I grew up, being a latchkey kid and had access to cassette tapes and had a big ass yellow Sony boombox that rested at the end of my bed. And that's what kind of sung me to sleep at night. It was KRS-One, BDP, Public Enemy, Brand Nubian, X-Clan, MC Light tapes. And that, it was all in a milk crate that I got behind a white hand pantry, and all those tapes lived in there. And there was no segregation between the music. It was, whether it was the Ghetto Boys in Houston, or whether it was NWA in LA, or whether it was, a rapper like Twista in Chicago. It's like all these things lived in some space. And there was a time in the music that the music educated me radically, where it was talking about Malcolm X, and I was not getting or knowing who Malcolm X was because this was, Midwest education in the late 80s. And they were not, my teachers were not hipping me to who Malcolm X or the Black Panthers was, but this was the chat, the music. When Run DMC said we read about Malcolm X in our history text, Jesse Owens broke records, Ali broke necks, I knew who Ali was because I like sports, but I had to go to the library and ask the old ass librarian who Malcolm X was. And of course, she was very kind, and the library was free, and she directed me to the stacks. And I read my sophomore year of high school, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And in that same stack, I got put on to other books that educated me. After I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, there was the Rome Bennett Jr.'s History of Black Folks Before the Mayflower. There was People's History of the United States of America. There was a really important anthology in my own life and in the history, I think, of the canon, The Black Poets, edited by Dudley Randall out of its Detroit-based Curbside Press. For the first time, I read in my life, I was 15 at the time. I read Miss Gwendolyn Brooks and Sonia Sanchez and Amiri Baraka and Jane Cortez. And at the time, Don L. Lee, who later changed his name to Hakeem Adabudi. And I'm 15 years old, sitting cross-legged in the stacks of the library, weeping because for the first time, I'm reading in a book what working people around me are saying, and I'm seeing it reflected in the pages. And the only other space I ever heard that, where I ever read that, was in the sources hip hop quotables. And so there was something between seeing the text in the Black poets articulated by the Black arts movement writers and the hip hop quotables. These things connected for me, and I knew that I wanted to do this work. I knew I wanted to write because of the vibrancy of hip hop poetics and what I was now reading in some of these anthologies. And so, propel myself years into the future. I get back from Chicago. I get back from playing basketball overseas in Wales, which does not say much about my basketball playing ability, more about the Welsh game at the time. But I knew I wanted to write, and I came back to Chicago in the early 90s. In the mid 90s, started to run around as a performer, as a writer, and I got asked into an alternative high school in 96 by one of my best homies on the planet, a dude named Ibu Patel, and he invited me into a classroom and said, I want you to, just read some of the poems and maybe try to get the kids to write. Now, I'm a college dropout. I've been kicked out or forced out of 5 different institutions. I don't have a degree, but now I teach in college, so the joke's on them, kind of. But at the time when Ibu asked me to teach, I thought that didn't make any sense because I was such a trash educator. I was such a trash student, but I said sure because he said he would buy me lunch. And so I went into the classroom, and it was 2 weeks or so after the God, Lauryn Hill, and the Fugees crew. It was a few weeks after the record had just come out. Score. And Lauryn said some wild things on that record. Right?
I had a motherfucker so your ignorance could hear you.
And so we were all we did for that hour and a half, mind you, was talk about how ill that record was. Au contraire, mon frère, don't you even go there. Be without a mic is like a beat without a snare. I dare to tear into your ego. We go way back like some ganja and Palico or Calico vision. Incisions in your anatomy, and I back this with Deuteronomy or Leviticus. God made this, you can't get with it. It's sweet like licorice and dangerous like syphilis. Yeah, and we were like, oh, what? You know what I mean? We were just like, our mind was blown. And for an hour and a half, we only talked about that record. And I apologized to my man after the class was over because we didn't do anything other than just talk about the record. And he's like, you should teach. I'm like, yo, you got jokes. He's like, you should do a residency. I'm like, that's fancy. He's like, we'll pay you. And that's how I started teaching. And so from like 96 to 2001, I started to run around alternative high schools in Chicago doing this hip hop poetic or what I later came to know as breakbeat poetic based education. And in that midst of seeing hundreds of young people throughout the city of Chicago do this new and innovative writing on their own in their notebooks, because Chicago is one of the most hyper-segregated cities in the world, I and a crew of other educators and teachers wanted to bring these young people together. And so in 2001, we were responding to a few things. One, the towers had fallen and America stayed criminalizing brown people around the planet. At the same time, the city of Chicago was trying to pass an anti-gang loitering law that was locking up young people of color for hanging out in groups of more than one. And in the midst of all of that fear and chaos and misguided mistruths, we wanted to bring people together. We wanted to counter that narrative and started a festival we called Not on the Bomb, based off of the Public Enemy song, and brought together a handful of people in a basement in Wicker Park and had a team-based poetry festival that was solely around the narrative and bringing these narratives together. Regardless of where you come from, we know we all have stories to tell. And so, you fast forward, that was 2001. We just celebrated our 20th year this year. We had around 900 participants in the festival. We had over 88 teams in the festival this year. And now, because of the way we've been educated and organizing, we have 20 cities across North America who are using the model of Lada Bomb to educate and organize in their own cities and in their own states. And we feel really lucky to be able to use hip hop poetics as a central tool to reimagine how cities can be organized and also re-inspire in the classroom. And it does what hip hop does. I mean, hip hop asks you to represent or represent who you are and where you come from at a very base level. It's asking people to keep it real, to be real about your experience, to delve into the idiosyncratic, to look at the specifics of your own life, and then to report those. And in the words of Miss Gwendolyn Brooks, Miss Gwendolyn Brooks referred to her work as that of verse journalist. And she did that work of reporting the world around her, the world in front of her nose, she said. And so I want to conclude. I want to kick a poem for y'all that is about how I think like the center of our work is this pedagogy. A few years ago, I had a book come out that was inspired by Howard Zinn's The People's History of the United States of America. It's People's History of Chicago. And in there, I talk about this kind of central pedagogic trope. And this is called How to Teach Poetry in Chicago Public Schools. Look clean, fresh kicks, cut jeans, iron them shits. Because even in uniform, the baddest students swag around 100, and those are the kids you hope to build with. The ones who got a crate of albums on heart. They listen to Wheezy, Gucci, Waka Flocka. Some may even spit their own bars for days, alone in their room, to their girl, a little brother. They might be reluctant to share, especially with the teacher, especially with the white boys. So start with the rhyme, something quick, a half note behind West Side double time, their ears picked, able to roll with all those syllables. Now read a poem, something slow, familiar, and offering to Gwendolyn Brooks and Carl Sandburg sitting on your shoulder. Ask where their favorite rapper comes from. Jay is from Marcy. Ye, the South Side. Everybody know Wayne is Katrina's soldier boy. From 96 to 03, have a firm, well-reasoned opinion on who is better, Pac or Big. After that, Young Money, New Language, Kanye couplets on memory, photocopy Willie Perdomo's Where I'm From the wrong way, do this to mess with them, to throw a monkey wrench into normal. None of us are from Spanish Harlem, but Inglewood know about police. And every block in the hundreds got old men who talk shit and guns that fire cracker and grandmothers who stir big pots. And the whole West Side is littered with nieces telling you to look past blue box street lights, because regardless of where you are from there. You know that, but have never been asked to expert. So speak on it, talk about it. I mean, all you got to do is sit that ass down and write. And that's that piece. And that's what we believe, y'all, that this work is very much about asking our students to dig into their own experience. They're experts, they're geniuses, and we have to create ciphers that are tantalizing enough for them to be themselves and create equitable spaces in our community centers, in our classrooms for them to represent. I'm really excited to listen to the conversation and to hear from Purple, who I know is holding it down in Newark and beyond. So thank you for having me this morning.
Yo, man, I appreciate you, Kevin, so much, man. Can everybody give Kevin a round of applause for that dopeness, man? I appreciate that, definitely. Kevin, is there any way, if you like folks want to actually get in contact with you, like your Instagram, Twitter handle?
Yeah,
Twitter.
Absolutely. It's just my name. I'll put it in the chat on IG and Twitter. It's just the same. And Young Chicago Authors is also the website, just youngchicagoauthors.org. And it's a space. We put out a lot of curriculum for teachers. Since we've been in quarantine, we've been putting out a online curricular tool every day of the week. And so those are, for teachers to use if you so choose. We're building Google Classrooms, all these resources to, partner with educators. So please feel free to be in tune.
Definitely. Appreciate that, Kevin. All right. So moving along, going ahead and introducing Purple. Purple, that was big. That was
Thank
big.
you.
Come on.
You gotta say
much respect.
Appreciation for Kevin authentically sharing who he is with us, and the journey, and the poem.
Exactly. Exactly.
and the offering on the website to the community, on the strength, as we like to say in hip hop, because we're contributors.
Definitely.
Yeah, for us, by us.
So before we even jump into what's about to happen, I just want to give folks a rundown of who you are, right? So we have Miss Purple Norris, lyrically known as, well, her name is Shakira F. Norris, lyrically known as Purple Haze, was born in the birthplace of hip hop, the Bronx. Currently residing in Newark, New Jersey, Purple's performances and classroom engagement are dynamic and unforgettable. This independent international MC rocks with funk and soul to naturally connect with ease. She is transforming the use of her authentic expression to inspire audiences and minds. Enthusiasts of the art form appreciated her energy, her impeccable flow, and a clever deliverance of truth. Hayes has mastered her own rich style of spitting lyrics with both power and substance. After working with Billboard's Music Festival and Awards in 2003, Purple began developing her skills as an independent performing artist, gaining interest from a wide spectrum of notable professionals across various industries. Her award-winning performance in H2C2's 24-hour rap anthem led to a video produced by video music box Ralph McDaniels, incorporated in BET's The Black Carpet and Rap City. Man, remember Rap City? Rap City was my joint. I love Rap City. I used to watch Rap City at 4 p.m. I remember it used to come at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
I would come home from school, watch. All right, I'm gonna get into that. All right. So Hayes' notable appearance includes Hayes' notable appearances includes BET's 2010 Black History Campaign, Pepsi's Mike's Pass, Joe's Pub, Solomon's Porch, the 5 Spot, SOBs, Lennox Lounge, the Blue Note, Atlanta's Apache Lounge. Oh, I love Apache. The Pole 75th Anniversary Celebration, Black Girls Rock at City Museum of New York, Newark Symphony Hall, and of course, NJ-PAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. I can keep going on, but if you want to know more about Purple Haze, you should definitely Google her. I'm going to continue to drop some stuff in the chat regarding like what she's currently working on. She's doing a summer camp with NJ-PAC, a virtual summer program. So if you have any children out there who are interested in the arts, I'll definitely drop that information in the chat. And before we even get started, I just wanted to put it out there. We had talked about this before. It's really interesting what today is. If you don't know what today is May 21st, right? Today is the birthday of Christopher Wallace, aka Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls, okay, aka Ashley the Classy. If you don't know who he is, you should definitely Google him and do your research, do your homework. But he is definitely a legend and an MC god. And we had said this before. It's crazy how you hear about his death, which is March 9th, all the time, right? But you never hear about his birthday. You never hear about the day he was born, that he was given to us in this world. So with that being said, I want to give it over to Miss Purple Norris.
Woo! I love this. As an MC, my man, Substantial from the PG County area, always said, MCs, we don't have time for a moment of silence. But I swear, between you and Kevin, I just wanted to sit there, in a moment. And I think that's just my reminder of my ancestors to be very present and to acknowledge all of us in this moment together right now. And I appreciate this time that we shared. That'll never happen again. So as Josiah said, I'm currently at NJ-PAC. I'm the artistic director. They were bold and brave enough to choose to have a hip hop program. And when they asked me to do so 6 years ago, what I told them is, as an ambassador and preserver of the culture that I identify with and love the most, that it would be in our interest to create a culture and arts program. I'm going to share some of what we are growing and learning along the way. And thank you again, everybody, Schools That Can, Josiah, Kevin. It was great touching bases, touching hands, Ashaki, just on the way to this moment again. So I believe in gratitude as a part of my daily practice, right on my list to stay present. And I do it with young people. So I'm going to do it here with us. I'm going to get it started. So this is our New Jersey Performing Arts Center. This is what it looks like on the inside when it's open. And this is a little bit of the history about the Performing Arts Center. And this photo is important because it's a festival called Sounds of the City. It's one of the events where so many people of all walks of life come together outside of the Performing Arts Center on the same ground. And we get down together in the spirit of music, and what art does is connect us as human beings. The irony is, in the early 2000s, rap artists were not booked for Sounds of the City. And I was the first rap artist to perform at Sounds of the City by a chance. And the journey really came because I forgot. My stepmother used to bring her students down from upstate New York, Ramapo, to see Alvin Ailey every year, and he left over tickets. She would let me know, and I would bring my students from throughout Newark who it goes. And what that taught me at the time was the relationship, the level of trust, flexibility, spontaneity that hip hop offered me in a way of life. Our culture is a way of life, if you choose to. And that led to another moment, which was me rocking the mic at that festival. And now, years later, our students every year, because we are a New Jersey Performing Arts Center, our Center for Arts Education, where our hip hop programming happens, actually the students perform on that stage now. So it's amazing to watch young people, and they not only rap. Our program, like I said, is a cumulative hip hop program. We're experimental and experiential. We teach beatboxing, we teach music production, DJing, graffiti and visual arts, MCing, and spoken word, as well as all of the different arts that are offered at NJPAC in our arts education. So we have a comprehensive and amazing jazz program. We have theater, acting, musical theater as well. We have special projects. Savion Glover comes every year. He does a project there as well. And shout out to Savion. He and I went to the same junior high school. We always bounce back and forth and meet each other in the path. So I'm gonna get into hip hop, and really the way that I've come to learn, grow, and with my team, I represent a community that in a village that's not here with me right now, but I also represent my teachers and the teaching artists, because I'm more now in an administrative role. And I promised myself to never leave the classroom. The little bit of time that I did had me way too disconnected to the reality of being with young people and growing and learning in the moment, because they're our teachers as well. And so the team of 26 that I represent here today, this is what we're cultivating. We're remembering the community, the cultural values and principles, and that we're entering the school building because we have a residency, or when we're at our Center for Arts Education, where we have our Saturday programming, or when we're in the summertime when we do our summer programming, even virtually at this point, that we are always practicing these cultural values and engaging this way. So it is about acknowledging we all are powerful, not the privileged. We all are powerful, and that power is a part of our humanity, and it's innate, and it's important to access the power. And sometimes we don't access the power. But in practicing the elements that I'll talk about in a moment, they always ignite, engage, and pull you into your powerful self if you turn within. And so power is really what we're all operating with to, or coming back to. Reality and imagination. We often talk about, yes, it's extremely vulnerable to talk about yourself. It's courageous, and it takes something. And so to talk about your reality is just a part of what we do in hip hop. It is the way that we're all translating in journalists and letting people know what happens in aspects of the world that you may never travel to, but you feel like you got there because of someone's art. And then also the imagination. Different impact and experiences in life will have people disconnect from their imagination. And for us, it's important that you are imagining. And then the next phase of that is visioning, because we want those concepts to be created. We want you to refer to yourself. And so a lot of people ask about rap artists not being real and keeping it real when it comes to industry artists. And what I've come to investigate and play around with is that they're really telling the story that they imagine. And it's important that we use the imagination. Sometimes some people, as Kevin mentioned, in different working class experiences, and even right now, the imagination will have you go further than what you see. And it is a resource for resilience, and is necessary to create and recreate your environment, your relationships, the context of yourself. So the imagination is a vital resource. And we say, mix that with your reality, and be bold enough to tell the world about you, be heard and seen. Community, I highlighted the word unity, of course, because hip hop, peace, love, unity, we unite. Consciousness, bold, brave, authentic. You see the words. This is how we move. And when we get to practice being human, that means we actually don't always do this. Then we have to have moments of reconciliation, acknowledgement, and ownership and responsibility, and then move back to this, which is where we at and where we always are. A lot of these aspects are what we're doing in hip hop. Again, I wanted to highlight some of the root words because it's not just about what's on the surface and what we see. It's about looking further and including, first and foremost, knowledge of self is the thing we're always practicing. So the fifth element, knowledge of self, is what we're all communicating, expressing, and investigating. And the way we go about making art, whether it be art for art's sake, art for social movement, social engagement, art for industry and product creation. But we are doing some of the things that are very much industries in different fields now. We've always been recreating, reacting, remixing, rebuilding, resilient, resourceful, reusing, recycle, repurpose, and as Kevin said, representing. And it's important to focus on these words. We do these things because we're creating on purpose. We're acting in action and calling people to act. We acknowledge 360, our cipher, our circle. That's our place of build. Everything comes around and goes around. Nothing we've done and doing is new under the sun. That's just not how life goes. We are mixing a little this, a little that, just like grandma's recipes. And you use everything and anything we have to create. I was about to sit on the milk crate today just because that's what felt good all morning. You know, I was going to continue that. But you use what you have to create and express yourself. So you don't have to be stopped, and you don't have to. The beautiful thing about hip hop is that it's self-taught, right? And that I'm obviously working with the team. So who are we? We're guides. We're not necessarily, yes, we're considered educators and teachers, but the young people are teachers too. Right. And so everyone in the room, and this helps us deal with power dynamics. If everyone in the room is a teacher, then we all have something that we specialize in and that we have to exchange, that we can grow and contribute. And so it's super important that we come together in this circumference to exchange. The cipher is our space where we can heal. The cipher is our space where we go beyond our thought and what we know we can do. And shout out to my teacher, Tony Blackman. Check out TEDx. She talks about cipher culture. You literally do things you don't plan on doing in a cipher. And that is because the cipher is a place where we all participate, not spectate. And when we think about traditional classrooms, why this is important, the way we try to reset our classrooms when we can, we go in and we create a cipher. In some environments, we can actually put the chairs in formation. If we can't put the chairs in formation, then we may be able to stand, or we may be able to alter our seats in such a way that we're still looking to create a circumference. Why? Because everyone can be seen, everyone can be heard, everyone can put in what they need and take out what they need. We're a culture that operates from abundance. We have plenty, we are enough. And it's important that we keep being true to these things when we come in the classroom, because it's an affirmative culture and because it's inclusive of all people, all abilities, all size, all ages, all mentality, all social demographics. It's about oneness. And the cipher also represents that. So it's a beautiful space to be in. I want to do an activity now and get the chat activated. At NJPAC, we produced the Hip Hop Nutcracker. And fortunately, we have several pioneers that connect and create with us. And in this case of the Hip Hop Nutcracker, we got my man, well, let me not say who it is. I'm curious. I got to test your hip hop knowledge here. So we need you to pull up the chat. And as it says in parentheses there, quick hip hop purple pop quiz. Who was the first solo rap artist to be signed to a record label? Of course, hip hop started in the early 70s, did not get, the record industry did not believe those kids, what they were doing uptown, downtown, that it was profitable. Again, the industry is created to produce and mass profit, so it has a very different intention than our culture. Yet, shout out to DJ Kool Herc and the Pioneers and Cynthia Campbell. As Herc said, if it wasn't for his sister, he wouldn't have thrown the party. The women in hip hop definitely play a major role, and sometimes are not always told. The story's not told that way. But the same thing when it comes to the Sugar Hill Gang. Cynthia Robinson is the person that created Sugar Hill Records. Her husband trusted and believed in her, and that's how we got the Sugar Hill Gangs. Shout out to Jersey too, because that's one of the Jersey produced joints. Though it was definitely a verse sampled, as the story tells, and the history is being told, depending on who you're talking to. Yeah. One of those verses were not original, supposedly. But let's go ahead and get into this chat right now and find out what all of that led up to. This artist being signed. Who's this?
Who you think? So we have Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash. I think it's Curtis Blow.
Curtis Blow?
It's Curtis Blow.
Yes, go with the first choice. Yes, Curtis Blow.
Come on, Christy Crawford and D. Carlton with the knowledge.
Shout out to
what we're talking about.
Yeah, and you can check out the Hip Hop Nutcracker NJ Pack at home. So, of course, I also gave it away in the title, If I Rule the World. If I Rule the World is a fun way we start engaging from jump. I'm going to play a little bit of Curtis Blow in the background, if that's okay for people.
Of course.
We like to have music in the classroom going. It is a way to signal that there's a shift and a change. If you have students that's been sitting in the classroom all day doing the same thing, that space, they automatically are conditioned sometime to operate from the academic. And in order to create a creative space and to shift the mindset to get their bodies ready to create, to make, sometimes we just want to shift the energy. And so we do so with standing up. These are the breaks of something we use, coming up with different breaks. So the silent break, the wave break, hands out to the side break, the B-boy, I don't want to do this break, B-girl, I don't want to do this break. This also in hip hop means I'm ready to start. It also means I just did something and I'm ready to end. And so we take some of the different movements, some of the different words we use while playing the breaks, and these are the breaks. So that's transitions the environment. But today, keep a little bit of the breaks going. So if you ruled the world, we're going to keep this chat activated. If you ruled the world, and right now that conversation, right, is very present for people. If you ruled the world, what would you do? Just think about what comes to mind. You can write it in the chat if you want to.
That's a really powerful question. If you ruled the world, what would you do? I think a lot of folks don't realize that. We even think about that because, especially in our communities, we're not used to having that much power, right? So we don't even think or fathom, right, to even be able to propose, like even pose that question. So what would you think? If you ruled the world, what would you do?
What would you do? And notice what's happening to your mind and your body when thinking about that, right? Again, what Josiah just said was the one of the reasons why we ask young people to start seeing themselves as rulers, as powerful, or recognize and acknowledge and tell the room, own that they are. Not coming from a place that they don't already. When someone is challenging a teacher, that's a power dynamic. They are a powerful person. As African Bambaataa, he moved around different street organizations and he wrote entered a writing contest, went over to Africa and seen different demonstrations of how community could be united and powerful, and came back and created the Zulu Nation, using his same power and influence to bring those who were opposing each other together. Shout out to the movie The Warriors, but that pivotal meeting, and look what Bambaataa did with that right there, with using his power once in one direction and then shifting it into another direction. So we look for the Bambaatas in the classroom, who are looking to rule. They know they rule, and they just need some guidance and assistance on what to do with all of that power inside of them. Instead of breaking it down, beating it down, We don't use build them down, break it down to build them up. We just acknowledge where you are, start where you are, and see where you want to go and grow. So that's what you would do. Let's see, Josiah, what we got in the chat?
So we got, let's see what we have. Okay, Christy Crawford said, create a national service corps to teach literacy like Cuba. That's definitely dope. Ashley Falzo said, definitely dump Trump. I think a lot of people agree to that. Fabian Williams said, my mind is running a marathon. All right, give you some time. Keep on thinking about it. Bev said she would pay teachers like professional athletes. That's definitely something we could do.
Yes.
And I think after this pandemic, that should definitely be one of the first things that we change and dismantle. Let's see. Amani said, oh, Lord, provide reparations to my indigenous and Black brothers and sisters. Listen, that's a whole conversation. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you in putting that out there. But Shaki Goodall said, if I rule the world, ensure equality and access is available for all people. No one will be without. That's dope. That's dope. Okay.
Would y'all believe some of the things you said or some of the things young people say? They're very clear. And what they remind us right there in that moment is they're ready to rule. Yeah. A lot of times when we have that moment exactly as I did, Josiah, tell me if there are more comments, we step back at that moment because we change the power dynamics. If we can, we ask someone in the room to collect. We can either have it written on the board and we ask young people to come on the board and capture what they're saying, or we have them write it on a post-it, an index card. Then we have people pass it to the most quiet person at the table and have that person bring it up, because we want, again, just like the cipher, everyone's participating, no spectating. If we can, we trade seats with them. Literally, can I sit in your seat while you go right? Right? We just shift the power dynamics now. I'm not in charge. Hip hop is not monolithic, and it's it's non-authoritative. And so we got to share those opportunities and spaces and the things we have responsibility to do as a community. It leaves people not in this this state of I have to do it by myself. It's more responsibility instead of obligation, for sure. But it is everybody's individual contribution does make a difference for the whole, for the masses. So here's a little bit of homework if you want to keep going. And shout out to my man that was vulnerable to say, yo, my mind is doing marathons. Right. Get a audio recording and talk out loud about that. Say it out loud, because I invite people before they would do this with young people to do it with yourself, even do it with your family and friends. It could be on a date question. You know, it's something that really goes through. And then the next part of this would be ask your inner child, if they ruled the world, what would they do in this current day? It's important that we engage with our youth voice. Hip hop is the voice of the youth. As my man that's on the team, DJ Cool V, the cut master from the Juice Crew. He works with us and teaches DJing at NJ Pat. And Cool V is an incredible ambassador and teacher when it comes to knowledge of self as a lived practice. And our inner child, he always says, hip hop is the voice of the youth. And so because I'm interested in it continuing to be a multi-generational experience. You yourself may have to invite your inner child to make sure that play gets ignited. It stays feeding you as well. And it helps us in the classroom. We play a lot. We have a good time for sure. So another fun thing about If I Rule the World that we do with this activity, you can take current day songs. People often ask, how do we use songs that don't have appropriate lyrics for school environments, right? And there's a couple of ways. Well, number one, I shout out to Namely, the National Association of Media Literacy. I invite everybody to take their survey and use their site. And they have some tools on how to unpack and how to support content creators, because our young people are content creators. But when it comes to using lyrics, we use this right here to set our entire world. This is actually how we create community agreements. Before we ask students to choose the rules, we have them put themselves in a position of, I am powerful and I get to say so. Then practice doing that collectively by everyone saying, what would you want this classroom to be like? How do you want to experience this time? How do you want people to react and respond to you? How would you prefer they don't react and respond to you? You know, what do you need to be your best big creative self, whatever that looks like? And so we take all of that information they share, and that becomes our community agreements. The next step, and this becomes really helpful with song titles. Again, we don't know every song, you know. I'm a music stream person, but I don't know every song that's out, and I don't need to know every song that's out. But here's an opportunity for generational exchange. You take the let's take Josiah. Can you read maybe 2 things that people said, and I'll show them how we pivot that to create community.
Oh, definitely. But just put this out there. Somebody asked about the organization you just mentioned. They definitely want that to be dropped in the chat. And regards to some of the things that we're hearing, Fallon Richmond said, if I ruled the world, I require coping skills to be a part of primary education. I'd also create free access to food through urban farming. That's definitely.
Okay, so let's take those 2. I'm going to take those 2.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to, again, work with everybody that's here. I need everyone's contribution to help me win in this moment, okay? Does anybody have a song that talks about free food or farming? It may be a hip hop song, it may not. Does anybody know of a song where the subject matter or the title encompasses that idea?
That's a good
Does
one.
it remind anybody of anything?
I personally, I mean, until we find somebody in the chat, it reminds me of that Mos Def song about water. Remember he had a song, I forgot, I think it was on Black on Both Sides. And he talks about how the scarcity of clean water, how we take for granted clean water, and how clean water should be a must, you know what I'm saying, for everyone, everybody. That was powerful.
And that made me think like Water for Chocolate, made me think Lauryn Hill's Water. Oh man, there was one coming to mind, something a little bit more current I'm playing around with. Oh, Hey in the Middle of the Barn. Crucial Conflict, right? So, right, so that's from my era. So I'm pulling up the songs of my time or the songs that I'm familiar with. And then we would ask young people, we would do that kind of dig, right? So it's more of an association if you can't find something exact. Somebody may say Old Town Road. You know?
Very true. Right? Whatever connects. Yeah.
Now we use that title to represent that agreement. So at Discovery Charter School, and shout out to Denise, I know he was on yesterday. Be cool, ride that wave was an agreement, right? And so sometimes when someone breaks an agreement or they're moving in a different direction than the collective, we check in to see what they need. But we also have students just go like this. We ain't even got to say be quiet. That means ride that wave.
I like that.
So
ride the wave.
We use movement in those ways to communicate as we do in hip hop. We also identify the art that's been made and repurpose it by taking those titles in. Sometimes I've had, 5th grade class say, yo, don't be a trap queen. Why you let him talk to you like that? Don't be a trap queen. After we unpack the lyrics and seeing what's going on in that subject. And so utilizing what's there, utilizing the part that can be used. So we do that in If I Rule the World. It's a lot of fun. One other point about If I Rule the World, just to go back, is this one song title has various renditions. Tony Bennett made a song called If I Rule the World. Coldplay, La Vida, has a song that translates the Spanish, the titles in Spanish, and it translates Rule the World. Then you have Ariana Grande and 2 Chainz, Rule the World, and you have Nas and Lauryn Hill, If I Rule the World. And so these are different decades. We can play each one and ask, what is the artist communicating? What is the artist feeling right here? What is the artist saying? And then have the students then write If They Rule the World. That's another way to shift the creative energy and get them talking and telling their truth. Speaking of talking and telling the truth and shifting and remixing, so as Josiah said, shout out to my favorite MC, Biggie Smalls. That's another presentation of why Biggie is my favorite. But the teachers on the call may like to know. Shout out to Brooklyn. I know you up here big time. Shout out to Brooklyn. Biggie Smalls love to read. You can listen to several rap artists, and hear that they were great students. Okay, and
Very.
you can also tell us some of the industry artists were well trained. So Tupac Shakur went to performing arts school. Lil Wayne, Outkast, a number of artists. Nicki Minaj was a graduate of LaGuardia, and so myself, I went to East Harlem Performing Arts. Some of this is not coincidence. So it's the raw talent, the cultivation, the guidance, the choosing, the not being able to not do it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't not do it. The place you can go develop craft and find out yourself, because when you hit the page, it's a different thing. I'm an MC, so I'm a little biased to that one, right? The same thing with my graph artist, Sprain. You learn, that's your knowledge of self moments. You're having some sacred information revealed to you about you. And then you take that and you continue to express that through these different vehicles. So I want to do an activity called Self-Define. I'm going to read a description, and I want those of you in the chat who are willing to be vulnerable, and it's okay to not. It's okay. It's your choice. We honor your yes and your no because it's your truth. That's what's most important, that you tell your truth. All right. So you can opt in this or not. But I'm going to read some descriptions, and I want you to identify who you are. Now, who is here in the session that is often moving and shaking? Sitting down for a long period of time doesn't work for you. Maybe your foot is always tapping or rocking. Maybe you are standing up, sitting down, walking around, pacing. Anybody in here like that? That's just how you move. No judgment. It's how you move. All right. And I like to say, shout out to Detroit in the classroom when it's possible, because not all classrooms, some classrooms with special needs, and not everybody's able to stand up. So we'll say, please stand up. Please stand up. So those people
for sure.
And then we clap for them. Clap for them. Clap for them. Clap for them. You in here. All right. Next.
I like that.
Is there anybody in here that prefers not to talk? You love colors. You love shapes, images. When you're looking at things, you see something that is not obvious to everybody else, kind of like the cloud. You do see the dragons in the cloud. You might see a heart or an arrow. Maybe you communicate better when you look at pictures or you show and see pictures. That just works for you. Anybody in here like that? You might do.
Who's that?
You might doodle a lot. You might scribble. You like to color. Are you in here? Please.
Okay, that's Fallon Richmond.
Please stand up.
Please stand up. Here we go.
Platform.
Jamel
Platform. All right, we got anybody in here that loves playing music? I mean, sometimes you can't even figure out what to say, but like Kevin did, you might drop a song title to help you continue to make your point. Or maybe you love to have sound, or you don't even love to have sound, you're just used to it. There's always something playing in the background. You might actually go to sleep better when the TV is on. Is that you? Maybe you like to make playlists and play music for people. Anybody in here like that, Josiah? You see it?
I see you folks. I see Ashanti Goodall said that's her. Ashanti Sullivan said that's her.
Hey.
McPherson.
Platform. Now, is there anybody in here that, you suck your teeth, or you be pencil tapping, you might hit your nails on the table, or you make funny sounds when you talk. Maybe you take your breath in and you whistle on the way out. You like to speak with an animated voice even, or you listen to people and you can mimic the way they sound. Anybody in here like that? Even if nobody knows you do it.
That's Miss McPherson, Lou J, and we have Jamel Mims.
I love it. Like shout out to everybody with the mask off in here, with the mask off. By the way, these comments that I'm making when I'm speaking to you, they're song titles or quotes from songs. So these are other ways that I'm using different songs. So Mask Off is a song that I normally wouldn't play in the classroom, but I can say mask off right here. And the young people appreciate that. So mask off, meaning you're revealing, you're showing some things about you. You're letting us get to know you this way, and we appreciate it. Can we get a soul clap? Come on. Get a soul clap. Come on. Depending where you at, sometimes a soul clap is.
That could be it. It could be a round of applause, depending on what fits you best.
Round of applause. Come on, everybody, clap. So
that Magnolia clap.
Yeah, no, you clap. Yeah. That's a different activity. We do a clapping activity as well, where you ask people to name all of the songs that they can that have the word clap or describe clap. And you do that, run into the wall, and everybody puts up their different posters around clap. And then you now have a different versions of clapping, so that every day the clap is not like this. That's appropriate, cultural, socialized to clap like that. But energetically, it doesn't always feel natural and not connected. So we need a variety of ways to clap. You could actually have claps of the week, and you just keep practicing the same clap. You can use claps for transitions. Again, the culture is so abundant, so rich. We have so many things to use. The last description, but not the least description. Is there anybody in here that's like me? You talk so much. You talk a lot. Matter of fact, maybe you don't even talk a lot. You like to read. You like to listen to other people tell stories, or you learn really well by people talking and telling stories. Maybe you like to play with words. No matter how you spell them, you might spell them with like writing your letters upside down or writing your letters with numbers, but you're really into words and talking or listening. Anybody in here like that?
We got Ashley Falzone. She says she's like that. Who else? Christy Crawford says she's like that.
Yeah. Jazz hands, or for my other community members, this too is clap. This is a silent clap, but it is very loud. Again, considering people with various abilities, we have to create various ways of acknowledgement. So we could also have these are the breaks, a head nod break. Hip hop is very affirmative. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Like we said, we honor your no. Nah. Good stretch break right here too. Good net.
Hey, yo.
All right. Yes, it's all good. What's happening? What's up? What's good? This is all speaking high and speaking higher, elevating ourselves. So now it's time to let me know. Maybe it's time to let me know. Here we are. In those descriptions, the one who loved words, listening, telling stories, or reading books, or hearing, or learn really well with other people talking, you would be the MC. Those who are moving and shaking, you might like to get down on the ground, stand up, keep walking and pacing. You would be the breakers, the dancers, the movers and shakers. Those who like to play music or communicate well with music and like to have sound going, or just used to sound going and it's okay, you may be the DJ. Those who make music with their mouth ticking, clicking in, change their voiceover artists. You would be the beatboxers. We have no excuse not to make music when we have ourselves as an instrument. And also our beat makers would also be the music producers doing similar things that the beatboxers and the DJs do. So we do that activity to show people whichever ways you express yourself, whatever ways you are, it works. You're invited. You have a place in hip hop and hip hop culture. Now, naming in many cultures is a very purposeful, meaningful experience. And so I want to play around right now and do a hip hop name experience the way we do it with our young people. Is there a brave heart? Shout out to Nas and the Brave Hearts. Is there a brave heart willing to come on stage?
Come on up. Don't be scared.
May not have a hip hop name or ready to get a new name today based upon your knowledge of self.
Come on down. Okay, Fabian Williams, you said, yeah. What's your hip hop name? Go ahead, Fabian.
Can we bring Fabian on stage? Fabian, are you willing to come on stage and work with me?
We need some volunteers.
I know what we say to young people at this point, right? And this is so good. We do this on purpose with professional development. We drop ourselves right back in a position of young people. We're always asking them to go out their comfort zone and do something. And so we're inviting everyone to be courageous and brave and have a moment. Not that people are scared, but public speaking is the number one fear for people, right? And so you get the opportunity to break through that in the moment, or to take a risk at recreating yourself and creating something, going into the unknown. In uncertain times, that tool has been really helpful. How do we move in unknown spaces?
Okay, we got Fabian. She's jumping on the stage.
Word. Fabian,
Shout out to Fabian.
you representing everybody, all of the participants in here, Fabian. No pressure on you. I got you. Our job, all of us in the cipher, our job is to have you elevate. So you're taken care of. Thank you for trusting us.
I guess Zion Baldwin said he'll try. Appreciate you, Zion.
All right, Zion, we're going to need you up here too then.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring those two in. How we doing on time, Josiah?
We got about maybe like 10 more minutes.
Okay. Hey, Fabian, thank you for coming in. We're going to do this real fast and not so furious. Fabian, thank you so much. Would you like to tell us anything about you, where you're from, and what you do? Or what do you?
I am from Pittsburgh.
What do you want us to know about you today?
Well, I am a teacher and a therapist, so I try to mix both. And this is working all of my lanes. Like I'm loving every moment of this.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your work and what you're doing in the community and with
Definitely.
Thank you. So I'm glad we could take care of you this way. Okay. Now, again, naming happens different ways. I know in Ghana, depending on the day of the week you're born, you may get your name and what order in the family. In some cultures, different objects are put out in front of the baby, depending on what the baby grabs, right? So naming happens different. In our culture, naming is also something that's a little more sacred and it's very honorable. And that's what you stepped up to do today. What up, Zion? What up? All right. So Fabian and Zion, we see you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything.
Okay. Let's get you set up because we got to make sure you're seen and heard. We good?
It's breaking up a little bit.
We can hear you, Zion.
And others in the chat, again, they're representing the chat. They're representing the chat, but others in the chat, happy for you to participate, would invite you to participate as well. So I want people to share what you're willing to, any of these three, one of these three. I want to just tell you based upon trauma-informed response cares a lot of how these activities came about. Once upon a time, I used to say, hey, what's the meaning of your name? The thing about asking somebody the meaning of the name is the different ways families come together. Not everybody has access to that information, and it could be triggering. It could have a person shut down right there, kind of check out the room and not be present. So asking somebody the meaning of their name is okay for some, but not for all. Again, took investigation to ask what kind of questions can we ask for others and all. Why were you named the name you were given? Not everybody has that information. Not everybody knows why they were given their name. So not everybody would be able to answer that. And again, we want to have activities where people can be included. Zion, I hope you're still in the chat. Let us know if you're able to come back on because you're welcome. But this question number 3 was the one after a couple of years of doing this activity that really helped us out. Because this is the one that no matter who you are, only you can answer this and you know how this is. What is it like to have your name? We can have 2 Fabians on this call, yet because your individual journeys, you do not have the same experience with the name Fabian. Fabian, will you share one of your answers, your truth to one of these questions?
So what is it like to have my name? I will say, first of all, if you Google Fabian, no one else has my name. So it has been, I've spent my life assimilating and calling myself Faye and accepting everyone calling me Faye or giving me nicknames, whatever they wanted to say. If somebody said Fabian, I love the fact that you can say it. That is a blessing. So it has been a very difficult journey, but I've recently, in the last maybe 5 years, I got to the place where I really appreciate the reality and the uniqueness.
Thank you so much for that. My birth name is Shakia. It came with having to correct people. I had a very similar journey. I can relate to that. And that's why I'm also glad you stepped up. I want to point to the cultural responsiveness that our names are often associated with culture or time periods where people thought Tamika and Shakia and Keisha was ghetto. It actually had more to do with the Pan-African journey here in America in the 70s and the reclaiming and connecting to our story before slavery. And so also Fabian, I got to shout out that we have a Fabian Avenue on Newark. So that's how to pronounce it. Right? Oh man, that's dope. And I'm going to look more into your name. So thank you for being so courageous, vulnerable, and telling the truth. Right. And I'm sorry for those times that people didn't ask you to learn you and fix our tongues to say your name in the way that it was intended. Now today, we invite you to have a journey where you name yourself. The thing about most of our names is we didn't get to choose them. But in hip hop, you can choose your name. It could be a nickname, but I ask people to go beyond that. And I ask you to look at this. What's something that matters to you? Something you want to do? Like Tyler being the creator, right? So Fabian, what's something that matters to you that you like to do or you love to do?
Let's see. I love to write. I love to sing. I love counseling. I love delving into people's minds and helping them hash out what's going on in their life and why it's going on. I'm gonna say pause right there. Pause is not a stop, and I'm gonna ask the cipher to contribute to you right there, especially because I was seeing you, right? And so I seen how you said, I heard you. I heard how you extended the love and then your head went back and it was just such an opening, right? When you said you love counseling, you love diving deep into the mind, right? That was a line right there. And so y'all, if you had to translate that, remix that, repurpose that, and Fabian, I want you to participate in this as well. Is there a name, a phrase, or a word that would say that in one? Diving deep into the mind. That sounds like what? That sounds like somebody who does what? And maybe it's not the mind. Maybe it's about diving deep. Or maybe it is the mind. What's some things that you see or you feel or words that come to mind? Intellect. Emotion.
Intellect.
Drive. Okay.
Can you say intellect 3 times?
Intellect.
Okay. And Ada, when we did the self-defined activity, was there something that stood out more for you? MCing, DJ, graffiti, beatbox? I didn't have graffiti up there. That was an error on my end. Was there any of those vehicles of expression, those hip hop elements that spoke to you that you identified with?
You know what? I think I got kicked out on that part.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Do you like words? A preference for words, for movement? You actually did tell me you like writing and you like singing, so it could be the MC, right? And with that being said, just to play around with, it could be intellect, MC intellect, or the intellect. Does that fit and suit you? How does it feel on your tongue?
The intellect, I like it.
Notice how I asked her to say it 3 times and she responded 3 times.
I like it.
There are things in art making that we don't control, right? We allow spirit or we allow energy to be used and be useful and come through us. And that I like it. We're listening for what resonates with the person. We can even feel it. Like when you're in a recording booth and you rap, everybody knows it's that take because you could just feel something happen. So Fabian, will you please introduce yourself to the world by saying, I am Fabian, also known as?
I am Fabian, also known as the intellect.
Come on now.
Thank you for being self-defined today. Thank you for being self-defined. You choose who you are, you say who you are, and the world identifies you and calls you in what you want to be.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Carry that with you and use it when you want, all right? I appreciate you. So if we had time and if it's possible, when people after this session, I invite you to go in the networking and do that with each other. That's how we do this around the classroom, so that the teacher doesn't only have to. You'll have students that get it really quick. You have students that need the time they do, but we ask peers to support each other and do an interviewing style asking these questions as well. So I'm going to move through the slides. Fabian, thank you very much for joining us on stage. The intellect.
Fabian, I'm expecting the mixtape by the summer.
I'm not here. I'm sorry.
I'm expecting a mixtape by the summer.
Yeah, you got bad for me.
Yeah. All right.
Like breaking up really.
Hold on real quick.
I'm gonna.
Okay, no worries. Just refresh your page.
Oh yes, that's important. If you are breaking up and dropping off, refresh your page. And Zion, I seen you pop in and out. You might be the pop up. Just based upon what happened, it might be something about popping with you. I didn't really speak too much about COVID and how we pivot during COVID. So I want to do so briefly now, but Josiah, 3 minutes? 3 minutes, not including Q&A, or 3 minutes, no Q&A?
So yeah, I mean, we're just going with the flow right now. So you can go ahead, and then afterwards we can go ahead and do a quick Q&A.
Okay, I just want to be respectful of time.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, as you know, in addition to the size of more activities, we can get you those. But what's important is to talk about how moving as a community and practicing this way assists with us staying committed. And what I said is that we pivot during COVID. We didn't stop and start, we pivot, because we kept our foot on the ground, and we trust the seeds that were planted and make sure the roots could continue to grow in that soil. And so we needed to move differently. What we did is first ask the parents, would us continuing in our Saturday program be something that they desired? Would it be something that they had the capacity for? We literally even created a survey, but we called to have the conversations. We asked, what technology did they have access to? Knowing our students already was really helpful. Having a lot of them share in the classroom and bring who they are and their devices and what they're up to. So we had a lot of existing knowledge. Would they have a place? Where would they see the most creative space in their home being? Not taking for granted that they're going to be now vulnerable by showing us their home. We're going into their home whether we like it or not, whether they chose to or not. And then where would a space be carved out for them to have class with us? We have a 4-hour session on Saturdays, so that's a good amount of time. The other question we asked that was important is, would they be able to have that designated time for themselves? Could the rest of the family contribute to them by have that 4 hours etched out and that there be little interruption? We asked that we continued our lunch breaks at the same time, but the same way they would bring lunch to sessions on Saturday, that if they could have a snack or a meal prepared in time for 12 o'clock so that they can pause. We also, at 12 o'clock, we know that that's their social time, so we kept that social time. Before our session officially started, we invited them to arrive early for a chill and chat so they could continue to just socialize, catch up. We have students who have come to develop themselves as DJs, and their parents invested in them. So they asked, could they DJ at lunchtime? For those who couldn't DJ, they made playlists. We shared free apps. They would share their beats at lunchtime. We use Zoom, which, because we had 3 classes going on, emceeing and 2 dance classes. These were all important things to ask before we even started. The next part was our frontliners, the direct service people, our essential workers, which are our teaching artists. This program would not have continued if the teaching artists did not say they were willing to and they had the capacity to. We had to explore that in a conversation. What would it take? What would you need? They needed the option to tap out if what they had to manage during this time. We looked at if someone is sick, what would our backup plan be? How we are transparent with young people and plan and think about it. And so looking at the sites that people knew how to use already, what we initially did was made videos to send out for the first week. The second week, we had our beatbox class with D Cross, because it would be the first time we would have 1 live class and learn from that. We told the young people they knew more about digital learning than we did, or how to navigate the internet, and that we would have to ask them to help us. So right when we have breakdowns, we call out and ask somebody, yo, this is what I'm seeing and doing and I'm trying to do. Can you tell me what to do? So young people really elevated their teaching in that space. And we continued on. We checked in through email and text message. We also invited our social workers to be on with us. Fortunately, we have a partnership with the Mental Health Association. We crafted out, instead of having 4 full hours of instruction, we said we would have a power hour, real talk about real time. So actually it wound up being a half an hour. The last 30 minutes were always dedicated to us discussing what this quarantine experience is like. Each week we would hear of people experiencing loss. We would talk about grief. We would talk about how the times are affecting them, how looking at screens is affecting their physical health. We had students lead different warm-ups and talk about what they're doing. And then, yes, we did use these art forms and invite them to use these art forms to assist them, because art is healing. The journey of art, it could be just taking a pause from reality, or it could be putting all your emotions in. And so we had the students also, for our end of program performance, they had the option to record videos and send it in, or share out live. So if they didn't feel good that day, they didn't have to have pressure. We also allowed people, we thought it was fine to have video on or off. It was up to them, but we learned to use the chat. And then if people didn't want to participate in class, they just wanted to connect and see their folk, we thought that was healthy and we thought that was fine. So they could chime on for 5 minutes, just say what's up, be seen and heard, and dip out. And that counted as attendance. So I'm over time. And I want to pause here out of respect for the intention. I will not be able to share everything, but I would say go to our NJPAC Arts Education site, and you can learn more about our programming. For the first time, we have musical theater, and dance under one track this summer, and we have hip hop, which offers graffiti, beatboxing, MCing, music production, DJing, and dance. For the first time, our programs are being offered in the morning or afternoon session, or morning and afternoon session. It is $50 for 4 weeks. If you want to take afternoon and, morning and afternoon East Coast time, then it's $75 for all 4 weeks. We made an afternoon session because we want young people who want to create to be together across the country. So we thought of the West Coast, we thought of the Midwest, and we thought of the East Coast. And we have an afternoon session, afternoon East Coast. We have a later on in the day session, early morning for you all, so that young people can be together making art using this time. We know that the art that will be created, just like hip hop, will reflect like a time capsule and be necessary for our history. We want young people to make sure they're documenting and they're growing in the process, and that we have space to guide and celebrate all that they create. Thank you. Thank you again, Schools That Can. Thank you, Josiah. Thank you for everybody coming up here. Shout out to Zion and Evan.
Come on now.
And Ashaki.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Purple, for joining us today. This was definitely a treat. And you just shown how powerful hip hop actually is and how you can use it in various and empowering ways.